how to create amazing light with off-camera flash. In the beginning of this lesson, I am going to give you a bunch of basics, and you might think it could be a bit technical for you, but it's important to learn these fundamental basics because later I'm going to give you 7 amazing techniques on how to use flash. But if you don't understand the basics that we're going through now and the technical aspects of it, you're not going to be able to do those other 7 amazing techniques. So this is the first step in getting amazing shots. So first of all, why do we need to create our own light? I mean, Sony has this camera that literally the ISO is 500,000, meaning it doesn't even need light to take a picture. It's so light. Well, so why create the light if our technology is so good now? I just raise my ISO or I just change things. In any situation, I can take a perfectly exposed picture because of technology. Why do I need to create my own light? Well, here's some reasons why you want to. One, when you create your own light and you put the light off camera, you create shadows. Now, why are shadows important? Well, think about it. Photography is 2-dimensional. How are you going to distinguish shape and texture without a shadow? So if you see something and if you don't see a shadow on it, you won't know the texture and the shape of it. You're taking a picture of a subject and they look beautiful. The shape of their body looks great. How are you going to make sure that you see that in a 2-dimensional picture? Is through the shadows that you create. So for me, the way I look at lighting, it's not about getting a good exposure because I can get a good exposure just by turning my ISO, changing my f-stop or my shutter speed because the technology is so good in the cameras, you can get a good exposure. But the reason why I create light is because I want to create shadows. And I want to be able to create a big difference between a highlight and a shadow. And because when you have highlight and shadow in your photos, it makes it more interesting and you tell a better story because you're seeing the shape and texture of things. 2, why do I want to create and use flash? Is because I can take this light and make it so bright that I could eliminate the ambient light in my room and make it darker. Well, why would you want to do that? Well, maybe I want to hide certain things in my environment that you don't want to see. Maybe I just want you to see my subjects and one little small thing that's behind them and nothing else. And you can do that with flash because you could underexpose your exposure on your camera and then add a great amount of light to give you the perfect exposure on your subject. So your background could be completely underexposed and not seen by the people looking at your photo, but your subjects will be perfectly exposed because you reduced the ambient light in the scene. And a lot of these shots done this way creates drama. For example, with flash, you could take a picture of a couple and you could make the sky slightly darker by underexposing the sky, but put light on your subjects for the perfect exposure. Therefore, your subjects will be brighter than your background and it will make for a very impressive picture because your subjects will now pop off that page because they're a lot brighter than the background, and the background could look a lot more dramatic with the skies darker too. So understanding that and doing that gives you a great power in controlling the way the lighting looks in your scene. Another reason why you want to be able to add light is so you can create a catch light. And to me, without a catch light, you don't have a portrait. And so catch lights are a brighter or a significantly brighter source in the environment that your subject's in. And so you can make your lighting so bright, even if your subject is standing in a bright area, you could make this light so much brighter that it still will give a catch light in your subject's eye, even if they're standing in a bright location. As I mentioned in other courses, is that a catch light is created when there's a contrast in lighting. The subject has to be in a lot darker area than the light source, and that's what creates a catch light. Another huge thing with creating your own light, and when you have amazing light and you have highlight and shadow and drama in your photos, your post-processing comes alive. And it's almost like anything that you do to that picture looks great with good lighting. If you want it black and white, looks good. You want it sepia, looks good. You want it color, looks good. You have so many more options open to you on how you want to post-process your photo, or if you simply just want to hand it over in camera, it might just look beautiful on its own. And you to be able to create your own light will give you your finished vision without having to post-process it, or it will also be enhanced by the post-processing that you do to create a signature level for yourself. So these are the 4 reasons why you want to create your own light.